"I caught my husband at a restaurant with another woman," he said. "Relax, it's just business." So I sent the waiter with a note. The moment he read it, his face turned white, and what happened next took an unbelievable turn. I wasn't supposed to be there. That's what kept running through my mind as I sat in the dimly lit restaurant, stirring my untouched glass of wine. It had been one of those exhausting days at work, the kind where you don't have the energy to cook but don't want to go home to an empty house either. So I decided to stop by my favorite little Italian restaurant, a place my husband and I had gone to for years. The warm scent of garlic, butter, and fresh-baked bread filled the air, wrapping around me like a comfort I didn't realize I needed. I had barely settled into my seat when I saw him. At first, it didn't register. My mind, exhausted from the day, took an extra second to process what I was looking at. There, in the soft glow of candlelight, sat my husband, his familiar hands wrapped around a glass of whiskey. His posture was relaxed, his suit jacket draped over the back of his chair as if he had all the time in the world. That wasn't what sent my stomach dropping like a stone. It was the woman sitting across from him. She was beautiful, young, blonde, and dressed in a sleek black dress that hugged her figure in all the right places. I watched, frozen, as she leaned in slightly, her manicured fingers grazing the back of his hand. He smiled, that same damn smile he used to give me when we were first dating. My throat tightened. I reached for my purse, my instinct screaming at me to leave before he saw me. But my legs wouldn't move. Instead, I sat there, gripping the edge of the table, my nails digging into the wood as I watched my husband, the man I had built a life with, the man I trusted, laugh with another woman like I didn't even exist. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe. And then he touched her. It wasn't a casual touch, not the kind you give a colleague during a business meeting. His fingers brushed along the inside of her wrist, lingering just a second too long. She smiled, tilting her head, her lips parting slightly, as if sharing a secret meant only for the two of them. I felt sick. The restaurant around me blurred, the soft clinking of silverware and quiet hum of conversations fading into the background. It was just them. Him. Her. And the undeniable truth that was staring me right in the face. I clenched my fists. I could have made a scene. I could have stormed over, thrown his drink in his face, demanded answers in front of a room full of strangers. But I didn't. I forced myself to sit still, to think. A confrontation right now would only give him an excuse to turn this on me. He'd say I was imagining things, that it wasn't what it looked like. No, I needed to be smart. I exhaled slowly, forcing the fury bubbling inside me to settle into something colder, sharper. If he wanted to play games, fine. I picked up my phone and opened our text thread. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could have sent something simple, like "I see you," or something biting, like "Enjoy your dinner. It's your last." But no, that was too easy. Too expected. Instead, I did something better. I waved the waiter over, my heart hammering in my chest. When he arrived, I gave him a polite smile and handed him a folded napkin. "Could you do me a favor?" I asked sweetly. The young man nodded, glancing at the napkin. "Take this to the man at table 7, I said, tilting my head in my husband's direction. "The one in the navy suit." The waiter hesitated, looking between me and my husband's table. "Is this a surprise or something?" I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. "You could say that." As he walked away, my pulse thrummed in my ears. I watched as he approached their table, placing the napkin discreetly in front of my husband before walking off. My husband frowned, unfolding the napkin. His expression shifted instantly. First, confusion, then realization, and then panic. His head snapped up, his eyes darting around the restaurant, searching for me. I let him find me. When our eyes met, I tilted my head, offering him the smallest, coldest smile. He looked down at the note again, gripping it tighter. I knew exactly what it said. "Relax, it's just business." Right. His face turned white. My husband's face turned white as he read the words on the napkin. His fingers clenched the thin fabric, his knuckles standing out stark against his skin. I could see the rapid rise and fall of his chest, the barely contained panic that flickered in his eyes as they darted across the restaurant, searching for me. I didn't look away. I wanted him to see me, to feel the weight of my stare pressing against him like an unspoken accusation. The woman sitting across from him, his business associate, as he would undoubtedly claim, tilted her head in confusion. She asked him something, her voice low, but I couldn't hear her over the rush of blood in my ears. My husband didn't respond. Instead, he slowly folded the napkin, his fingers trembling ever so slightly. He reached for his glass of whiskey and took a long sip, but I noticed the way his throat bobbed as he swallowed, like he was forcing it down past the lump of guilt lodged there. I wasn't sure what I expected him to do. Would he get up and come to me? Would he ignore me entirely and continue his night like nothing had happened? A part of me wanted him to make a scene, to give me the satisfaction of watching him scramble for excuses. But he didn't. Instead, he leaned slightly toward the woman and whispered something. She frowned, glancing briefly in my direction, then back at him. Whatever he said, it wasn't enough to make her leave. She just shrugged, swirling the wine in her glass, waiting. I should have left. I had already made my point. I had delivered the message loud and clear, I see you. But something inside me refused to go. I wasn't done. I wanted to see what he would do. I reached for my phone, my hand steady despite the storm brewing inside me. I pulled up our text messages, where our last conversation was something painfully mundane. Me reminding him to pick up dry cleaning, him responding with a short got it. I started typing. Me, don't bother coming home tonight. I hit send. The moment his phone vibrated on the table, I saw it, the barely perceptible flinch. He hesitated before picking it up, turning it slightly to shield the screen from the woman. His lips pressed into a tight line as he read the message. Then, finally, he looked at me. Our eyes locked across the restaurant. For a second, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, he stood up. The woman looked up at him, brows furrowing. She asked something again, this time more insistently, but he barely spared her a glance. Instead, he took his jacket from the back of a chair and threw a few bills onto the table. He said something. I couldn't hear what, but the woman didn't seem pleased. She crossed her arms, shaking her head, but he didn't stay to argue. He was coming toward me. I straightened my back, bracing myself. As he approached, I could see the tension in his jaw, the forced calm in his steps. He stopped a few feet from my table, his hands clenched at his sides. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice low. I took a sip of my wine, savoring the way it burned down my throat. Then I placed the glass down carefully, looking up at him. "I don't know," I said, tilting my head. "Is this business?" His eyes darkened. "Don't do this here." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Oh, now you're worried about what's appropriate in public?" He exhaled sharply, glancing around as if hoping no one was paying attention. And they weren't, at least not yet. But I didn't care if they did. I wanted him uncomfortable. I wanted him to feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. He pulled out the chair across from me and sat down without asking. "It's not what you think," he said quickly, leaning forward. I arched a brow. "Oh, because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly like what I think." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every movement. "She's just a colleague. We were discussing." "I don't care." He blinked. "What?" I leaned in slightly, my voice calm but firm. "I don't care what you were discussing, or what excuse you're about to spin. I don't need to hear the lies." His jaw tightened. "It's not a lie." I laughed again, this time softer, shaking my head. "You touched her." He hesitated. "It wasn't." "You touched her," I repeated, emphasizing each word. "You don't do that in a business meeting, Nathan." His name tasted bitter on my tongue. His fingers curled into a fist on the table, his wedding ring catching the light. For a moment, he didn't say anything. And that silence, that hesitation, was enough. It confirmed everything. I stood up, reaching for my purse. "We're done here." His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist, not hard but firm enough to stop me. "Wait!" I stared down at his fingers, then back up at him. "Let go!" He hesitated, his grip loosening but not releasing. "Come home. Let's talk about this there." I inhaled deeply, steadying myself. "You don't get to decide where we talk. You lost that right the moment you decided to take her out instead of me." Guilt flickered across his face. "Good." I pulled my wrist free, throwing a few bills onto the table. I didn't need to hear more. I didn't want to. As I walked past him, I felt a strange kind of calm settle over me. The kind that came when you realize something had already shattered, and there was no point in trying to piece it back together. I had walked into this restaurant thinking it was just another ordinary night. Now, I was walking out knowing my life would never be the same. I stepped out of the restaurant, the night air cool against my heated skin. My heart pounded in my chest, a strange mix of anger, betrayal, and something else, something I couldn't quite name. Maybe it was adrenaline. Maybe it was the cold realization that everything had changed in the span of a single evening. I didn't stop walking. I needed to get away. Behind me, I could hear the restaurant door swing open. Footsteps. Fast. Purposeful. "Natalie, wait!" Nathan's voice. I should have kept walking. Should have ignored him and let him chase after the version of me that still believed in his lies. But something about the urgency in his tone made me stop. Just for a second. I turned, slowly. He was standing a few feet away, his breathing uneven, his face tense with something between frustration and desperation. The streetlights cast long shadows across his features, making him look almost like a stranger to me. "I told you we're done," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I can explain," he said. I let out a hollow laugh. "That's the problem, Nathan. You think there's an explanation that will make this better. There isn't." I turned to leave again, but he stepped forward, blocking my path. "At least let me take you home. We shouldn't do this here." I shook my head. "I don't need a ride." "Natalie, please." I didn't let him finish. I turned and walked away, faster this time. I could hear him moving behind me, matching my pace. He was following me. The streets weren't busy, but there were enough people around that I wasn't afraid, at least, not in the traditional sense. But there was a different kind of fear creeping in. The kind that came with realizing you didn't really know the person you had trusted for years. I kept walking. So did he. "Natalie, stop!" he called after me, his voice sharper now. I didn't. Then suddenly, he was beside me, his hand grabbing my arm, not rough, but firm. A boundary crossed. I yanked my arm away, stepping back. "Don't touch me." His jaw clenched. "I just want to talk. And I just want to go home." I shot back. "Alone." For a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other. Then, something in his expression shifted. "If you don't let me explain, you'll regret it," he said. My stomach tightened. "Excuse me." He exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "That's not what I meant. There's more to this than you know." I scoffed. "Oh, I'm sure there is." His fingers flexed at his sides, like he was debating whether to reach for me again. But before he could, a voice cut through the tense silence. "Everything okay here?" I turned to see a man standing a few feet away, watching us. Early 40s, dressed casually, but something about the way he held himself told me he was paying attention. Nathan forced a tight smile. "Yeah, just talking to my wife." The man's gaze flickered to me. "You good?" I hesitated. The logical part of me knew Nathan wouldn't do anything in public. But logic had already failed me tonight. "I'm fine," I said after a moment. Nathan stepped back, as if realizing how the scene must have looked. "I'll call you," he said quietly. I didn't respond. I just turned and walked away, this time without him following. I should have gone straight home. I should have locked the door behind me and figured out my next steps in the safety of my own space. But something didn't sit right. It wasn't just his desperation, it was the way he had said it. "There's more to this than you know." I had spent years trusting him, years believing that we were a team. But tonight, I had seen something else, a crack in the perfect image he had always tried to present. And I wasn't sure I could walk away without knowing the full truth. So instead of heading home, I turned the corner and doubled back toward the restaurant. Nathan was still outside, pacing near his car, his phone in his hand. He hadn't seen me. Not yet. I slipped into the shadows of a nearby alley, my heart racing. What was I doing? This wasn't me. I wasn't the kind of woman who played detective, who spied on her own husband like some crime show protagonist. But then again, I also wasn't the kind of woman who expected to catch her husband on what looked suspiciously like a date. Nathan finally stopped pacing. He lifted his phone to his ear. I held my breath. Then I heard it. "Yeah, she saw us," he said into the phone. A pause. "No, I don't think she knows everything yet." Everything. My pulse pounded in my ears. "No, I didn't tell her," he continued, voice low. "But she's not letting this go. We might have to." A car drove past, drowning out the rest of his sentence. My fingers curled into fists. Who was he talking to? What wasn't I supposed to know? The logical thing would have been to leave, to walk away and process what I had already uncovered. But logic had already abandoned me tonight. I wasn't leaving until I got answers, and I had a feeling I wasn't going to like them. I stood there, hidden in the shadows, my body frozen as Nathan's words echoed in my head. She saw us. I don't think she knows everything yet. We might have to. Might have to what? The silence that followed sent a chill through my spine. He had secrets. Secrets big enough to make him nervous, to make him talk in hushed tones on the phone when he thought I wasn't listening. And if I had learned anything tonight, it was that I couldn't trust him. Not anymore. I swallowed hard, my breath shaky. My first instinct was to confront him right then and there, to walk up to him, snatch the phone from his hand, and demand answers. But something held me back. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was instinct. Either way, I knew I had to play this carefully. So, instead, I stepped backward, deeper into the alley and turned away. I needed space to think. I made my way back to my apartment, my thoughts tangled in a whirlwind of doubt and anger. Every step felt heavier than the last. When I finally reached my door, I hesitated. My own home, a place that had once felt safe, now felt like unfamiliar territory. Nathan had a key. He could walk in at any moment. I locked the door behind me anyway, securing the deadbolt for good measure. Then, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I blocked his number. It wasn't a permanent solution. I knew that, but it was a small act of control, something to keep him at arm's length while I figured out my next move. I collapsed onto the couch, rubbing my temples as my mind raced. Who was he talking to? What didn't I know? And then, the worst thought of all, was I ever really his wife, or was I just another piece in whatever game he was playing? The realization settled in my chest like a stone. Nathan had built our marriage on lies. And now, it was all falling apart. The next morning, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard his voice again, playing in an endless loop. The secrecy, the tension, the way he had grabbed my arm outside the restaurant, just a little too tightly. When the sun rose, I felt drained. But I couldn't afford to rest. I needed answers. I grabbed my laptop and did something I had never done before. I searched Nathan's name. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Maybe a hint, some piece of his past I had overlooked. But as I scrolled through pages of results, nothing stood out. Until I found something buried deep in the search results. A news article. The headline made my stomach drop. Local business owner accused of fraud. Investigation ongoing. I clicked on it, so fast my hands shook. The article was from 2 years ago. It detailed allegations of financial fraud against a small consulting firm, one that Nathan had been a part of. According to the article, large sums of money had mysteriously disappeared from the company's accounts, and while no one had been charged, the investigation had remained open. Nathan had never mentioned any of this. Not once. I scrolled further. The article noted that the case had gone cold due to lack of evidence, but there had been whispers that one of the firm's executives had taken the fall to protect someone higher up. My blood ran cold. Had Nathan gotten away with it? And worse, was he still involved in something illegal? Suddenly, his nervousness, his paranoia, even the way he had reacted last night, it all made sense. This wasn't just about another woman. This was about something much, much bigger. I sat back, my mind spinning. If Nathan had been involved in fraud, what else had he been lying about? My fingers hovered over my phone. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but who could I trust? I had no proof, just suspicions. And I knew Nathan well enough to know that he wouldn't let this go easily. An unexpected visitor. By noon, I was restless. I had paced my apartment so many times I was starting to wear a pattern into the floor. Then, a knock at the door. I stiffened. I knew who it was before I even looked. Nathan. I took a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Another knock. More urgent this time. I moved toward the door but didn't open it. "What do you want?" "Natalie, come on," he said, his voice muffled through the wood. "We need to talk." I hesitated. He sounded different, less controlled. less composed. I checked the peephole. His face was tense, his hair disheveled like he hadn't slept either. I have nothing to say to you, I said. You don't understand what's happening. I understand plenty, I shot back. Silence. Then, I made a mistake, Natalie. I clenched my jaw. Which one? Lying to me, cheating, or being involved in a fraud investigation? The pause on the other side of the door was long. Too long. Then, softly, he said, I never cheated on you. I let out a bitter laugh. Sure looked like it. She's not what you think, he said. But you were right about one thing. There's more to this than you know. My heart pounded. I hated that part of me, still wanted to believe him. I stayed silent. He sighed. Natalie, I need you to let me in. A shiver ran down my spine. No, I said. A muscle in his jaw twitched. I didn't want to involve you in this. That sent alarm bells ringing in my head. Involve me in what? Before I could ask, Nathan stepped closer to the door, lowering his voice. I don't have time to explain everything right now, he said. But if you don't trust me, at least trust that you're in danger. My breath caught in my throat. What? I messed up, he admitted. But I swear, I never wanted you to get dragged into this. I need to fix it before it's too late. I gripped the doorknob so tightly my knuckles turned white. Every instinct told me to shut him out. But that one sentence had changed everything. You're in danger. Nathan had lied to me, deceived me, broken every promise he had ever made. But there was one thing he had never been before. Scared. And right now he looked terrified. I stood there, my fingers still curled around the doorknob, Nathan's voice ringing in my ears. You're in danger. For a fleeting second, my mind whispered a dangerous thought. What if he's telling the truth? But then I remembered the way he had lied to me, the way he had stood in that restaurant, whispering to another woman, dismissing my pain like it was nothing. I remember the sickening fear that had gripped me when I saw the message on his phone, the paranoia that had gnawed at me for weeks before this night. Nathan had already put me in danger, whether it was through his choices, his secrets, or the web of lies he had spun around us. And I was done being a part of it. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and then I spoke. I think you should go. Natalie! I mean it, Nathan, I said, my voice firmer this time. Whatever mess you've gotten yourself into, it's not my problem anymore. Silence. Then for the first time in a long time, I saw something real flicker across his face. Regret. But it was too little, too late. Without another word, I turned the lock. The sound echoed in the quiet hallway like the final nail in a coffin. And then, slowly, Nathan stepped back. He stared at me for a moment longer, his jaw tight, his hands clenched at his sides. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. I didn't watch him go. I closed the door. And this time I didn't cry. The next few days passed in a blur. I expected Nathan to try to call, to knock on my door, to send a message, but nothing came. Instead, I found myself standing in the wreckage of my own life, trying to make sense of it all. The betrayal, the lies, the years I had spent loving a man I no longer recognized. For the first time in years, I was alone. And yet, strangely, I felt lighter. I quit my job at the firm Nathan had helped me get into. It had always felt more like his world than mine anyway. I spent hours boxing up the reminders of him, the wedding pictures, the anniversary gifts, the notes he used to leave on the fridge. One by one, I put them away. One by one, I let them go. And then, slowly, I started to breathe again. It wasn't easy. There were moments when the grief hit me like a wave, crashing down when I least expected it. The first time I saw a couple holding hands at the cafe we used to go to. The first time I reached for my phone out of habit, only to remember I had blocked his number. The first time I slept through the night without dreaming of him. But with every day that passed, I learned something new. I learned that I could wake up and not feel like the world was ending. I learned that I could laugh again, even if it felt strange at first. I learned that I didn't need Nathan to be whole. I had been whole all along. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but I knew who it was from before I even opened it. Nathan's handwriting was unmistakable. Natalie, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I won't ask for it, but I need you to know that everything I did, every lie I told, wasn't because I didn't love you. It was because I was trying to protect you. I was a coward. I should have told you the truth from the beginning. But by the time I realized how deep I was in, it was too late. And I didn't want to lose you. I lost you anyway. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I ruined it. That's something I'll have to live with. But I hope you don't let this break you. I hope you find happiness, even if it's not with me. Nathan. I read it twice, 3 times, and then I folded it neatly, set it on the table, and walked away. I didn't cry. I didn't dwell. I didn't let it pull me back into the past. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking back. I was looking forward. And this time, I was walking alone on my own terms. And that, I realized, was the most powerful thing of all.